Today, I'm going to rank 5 of the last 10 Brawl Stars updates in this two-part series of ranking the last 10 Brawl Stars updates. So sit back, relax, ask Fong for some popcorn, and enjoy the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video, and comment down below what your thoughts are on each of the updates, and if you agree with the ranking. Before I start this video, I want to specify that this video does not intend to insult your favorite update, or whoever you play. Wait, that's the wrong line. My apologies. But anyway, I'm going to be starting from the 10th update from this current one, and going to the most recent update. Why only 10 updates, you ask? Because I don't want this series to be extremely long, and neither do you. So enjoy. The first update I'm going to talk about is incidentally my pick for the most underrated update of all time. The Mystery at the Hub. If you haven't already, go check that video out for a more in-depth look at the Mystery at the Hub update and why it was so good, yet underrated. But for now, I'll just give a brief summary of the update and my ranking. This update brought 2 new brawlers to the game in RT and Willow, with RT being the Brawl Pass brawler and Willow being a mythic brawler. One of the biggest things added in this update was masteries, which allowed you to get resources and cosmetics for just winning. Another semi-major thing added in this update was the Battle Start and Battle Card feature. There were very few balance changes this update, but the major change of this update was the nerfing of Jackie Bow Gray comp. There were a few miscellaneous updates here and there, but for the sake of time, I'm not going over them for this or any update if I feel like they didn't have a major impact on the ranking of the update. So, how good was the update? Very good, to answer that question. The 2 brawlers had extremely unique supers, and neither of them were extremely broken ever. RT has become a staple solid, but underrated pick if you know how to play him. Willow hasn't been the best in the meta, but is still very strong in the hands of players who know how to play her well. The Battle Start feature allowed you to flex some of your coolest achievements, like reaching Masters, having Saturn, Solar, or Meteoric fame, and in my personal case, having a creator icon. The balance changes weren't anything major, but the quality of the balance changes was very good. Finally, Masteries were an absolutely incredible change. It gave an incredible boost to progression, giving extremely valuable coins, power points, and credits for just playing your favorite brawlers as long as you didn't have a skill issue. Even if you didn't need a boost to progression, you could get exclusive cosmetics that would show your mastery of the brawler. With all of these reasons, I think this event lives up to its name as the most underrated update in Brawl Stars, giving it a solid S tier to start out. The second update I'm going to talk about is the Rumble Jungle update. This update introduces the Brawl Pass brawler Maisie and our favorite Milky Tank, Hank, who is an epic brawler. This update was mostly known for the addition of our favorite currency, Bling. Bling allowed you buy brawlers without having to spend gems, up to the epic rarity of skins. This update also removed star points, making it so that 250 Bling was given every Power League rank instead of the old star point rewards. This update had a lot of miscellaneous and quality of life improvements that it made. It reworked the Trophy League reset from every brawler above 500 every 2 months, to just your top 20 brawlers above 500 every 2 weeks. They also added a skin catalog, an increase in credits, chroma credits, and discounts for new players, and a small matchmaking rework. Finally, there weren't many balance changes in this update, but they did completely rework Meg and made Shelly's movement speed much faster. So what are my thoughts on this update? Well, this was yet another update in Supercell's golden era of appealing to the free-to-play player base. The 2 brawlers released weren't broken besides a temporary bug from Hank. Maisie hasn't been the most played brawler, and has hovered in mediocrity other than in short spurts being a meta brawler. Hank, on the other hand, has been completely trash after his first balance changes, but his design and voice lines have made him into the most loved brawler in all of Brawl Stars. The addition of Bling in this update was a huge one for buying skins for brawlers. Before, unless you didn't care about progression, you would be crazy for buying skins for your favorite brawlers as they costed gems that were hard to get and used for the Brawl Pass. But with Bling, you could now buy valuable skins for your favorite brawlers that you didn't have to spend any money for, or lose out on progression. The miscellaneous updates didn't make too much of a difference, but they were definitely an extra help to newer players with the massive boosts in brawler unlock rate being given to them. However, the balance changes in this update caused 2 monsters. They ended up overturning Shelly's speed, turning her from one of the worst brawlers in the game to the undisputed best brawler in the game, absolutely terrorizing most other brawlers. And Meg's rework caused her to be right next to Shelly and the most powerful brawlers in the game, as he rework made her much more difficult to beat as she no longer started in her regular form, which meant she had much more health and damage at the start of the game. Overall, this was another great update from Brawl Stars. There weren't any significant changes to progression, but at this point we didn't really need any, and the addition of bling was an incredible one. The only sour part were the balance changes, but I think this update still deserves a low S tier. The third update I'm going to talk about is the Enchanted Woods update. This update introduced the Brawl Pass brawler Cordelius and our favorite trash brawler Duck. This update also introduced a massive rework to many of the lesser-played gadgets and star powers in the game. Some examples include buffs to Belle's grounded star power, Dynamite's fidget spinner, Rico's multi-ball launcher as we all know too well, and Carl's heat ejector. They also made some changes to quests, such as removing play in team quests and game mode-specific quests. They also added multi-brawler win and damage quests, as well as multi-game mode quests. Finally, they added some welcome back rewards. And that's it. Just kidding. This update completely changed the game and brought back everyone's favorite RNG in the form of star drops. Each star drop had either cosmetics or progression in them, with you being able to get things like coins, power points, skins, bling, and brawlers from them. The amount of rewards you got were based completely on chance, with you having a large chance of getting rare star drops, which are the worst, and a small chance of getting legendary star drops, which are the best. So what are my thoughts on this update? Well, the two brawlers added were some of the most unique we've gotten. Well, maybe not Doug's main attack, but his and Cordelius's super were incredibly wink and well-designed, though it was conceptually broken in Cordelius's case. Cordelius was one of the most powerful brawlers on release, and stayed as an extremely powerful brawler for his entire career so far. Doug has been the exact opposite, being absolute trash for his entire career, and a consistent D and F tier brawler. The attempt at reworking a lot of the worst gadgets for brawlers was actually a very good idea in theory. It allowed the decision to buy for many of the star powers and gadgets to become a more difficult one, and people could feasibly now have different playstyles due to having different gadgets and star powers for the same brawler. But that's only in theory. Sure, some of the reworks turned out to be good, but others turned out to be either useless or too broken, like Dancing Flames and Multi-Ball Launcher, making the change overall a solid one despite having great intentions. The quest rework was one of the most underrated updates in the history of Brawl Stars. I'm very slightly over-exaggerating, but it was still a very good update, as it suddenly made quests so much easier and less stressful and difficult to do. It allowed you to have much more choice and control over who you played instead of being forced to play certain game modes or brawlers that you didn't like. The welcome back rewards were also a nice touch and helped incentivize old players to return the game by giving them some extra progression. And now let's go over the main topic of this update. I'll save every thought of mine for a future video, so let me just give a summary. The addition of star drops meant that other areas of the game were nerfed, and so Club League, Brawl Pass, and Power League rewards were nerfed to make star drops a thing. And overall, star drops weren't the greatest addition ever. They returned RNG, basically making the whole removal of boxes feel like just an empty gesture, as they just returned to RNG anyway. As for star drops themselves, they had many issues, as they were extremely chance-based and also gave cosmetics. This led to frustrating moments of getting useless cosmetics such as pins, sprays, profile icons, and mediocre skins instead of getting the much-needed progression. Of course, it still gave solid amounts of coins and power points, but it wasn't the best or the most consistent due to random chances and the prevalence of rewards that you didn't want to get. So what rank am I giving this update? I think I'm going to give this update a solid B tier. It had some solid quality of life updates, but many of the major updates in here were controversial and removed some of the consistent progression and balance we used to have. The fourth update that I'm going to talk about is the Ranger Ranch update. This update introduced Pearl, who was the Brawl Pass brawler, and Chuck, a mythic brawler. This update introduced everyone's favorite overpowered purple button, Hypercharges. Hypercharges were an extra ability that was basically a much more powerful super that took longer to charge. To get a Hypercharge, you had to get one from a legendary star drop, 4 gems, from the Hypercharge Unleashed event when it existed, or for 5,000 coins. This update also added a new rare gear to the game, which was the gadget gear. Brawlers that had this gear equipped would now have an extra gadget to use, going from 3 to 4 gadgets per game. The highlights of the balance changes in this update were a Nanny, Piper, and Fong buff. On the other hand, Bonnie, Crow, and Squeak were nerfed. The game mode slots were also reduced in this update, from 6 slots to 4 slots, with Bounty, Heist, and Hot Zone being removed from ladder. Other changes in this update were an increase in power from 5% to 10% with power level increases, and the Hypercharge Unleashed event. So how was this event? Well, the release of Pearl wasn't the greatest. She wasn't the most unique brawler, and her heat bar mechanic was similar to that of Ashe, but basically in inverse. She overall was a very solid pick in the meta, and quite consistent for her career. On the other hand, Chuck was an incredibly unique and fun brawler, but an absolute hell to play against on several maps and modes. Hypercharges were an extremely controversial addition to the game, and added a whole new level of progression and coins needed to max out the account. Furthermore, it disrupted the game balance and instantly catapulted those with a hypercharge to the top of the meta, while brawlers who didn't get a hypercharge were left in the dust. However, they were quite fun and satisfying to use, especially when you made a team-wipe play with the hypercharge. The gadget gear was a solid idea, but it did make games much more toxic against brawlers with great gadget, such as Charlie's Spiders, Dynamite's Stun Gadget, or Piper's Homing Gadget. The buffs to Nanny, Piper, and Fong made them all S-tier brawlers, and made Piper and Fong especially toxic to play against. The nerfs to Bonnie, Crow, and Squeak destroyed their places in the meta, and only hypercharges managed to revive Crow and Squeak, with Bonnie still languishing at the bottom of the meta. The game mode slot reduction was another change that wasn't great. It removed some of the best game modes, and removed a lot of choice from the players as to what they wanted to play. The change in power increase per level did make leveling up feel more rewarding, but heightened the gap between free-to-play players and pay-to-win players. Suddenly, playing as underleveled brawlers was much more difficult, and even worse when you considered facing against hypercharged brawlers as an underleveled brawler. The Hypercharged Unleashed event was a very solid idea, as it gave you a free hypercharge just for playing the event. However, the matchmaking around the event was horrendous, and the servers often broke, leaving players frustrated as they weren't able to play the event, eventually leading to its removal from the game. So what is this update's ranking? Unfortunately, this goes to D tier. I can see an argument for C or F tier, but most of the updates in this update were not good additions to the game, and were geared towards a more flashy and payer-based audience. However, I can see why they added these things, as they were trying to revive Brawl Stars, but in the grand scheme of things, most of these updates were not good ones. The fifth and final update that I'm going to talk about is the Bizarre Circus update. This update introduced Charlie, who was the Brawl Pass brawler. This update also added hypercharges for Rosa, Maisie, Lou, Jessie, Colette, and Charlie. As for balance changes, Doug, the Pet Power Gear, Leon, and Sandy's gears gained buffs, and Chuck, the Speed Gear, Shelly, and Gus received nerfs, among others. The main change of this update was the removal of Club League and its replacement in Mega Pig. Mega Pig is a club event in which everyone works together to win games, with the amount of games won correlating with the amount of star drops gotten, with a maxed Mega Pig giving 20 star drops. The Mega Pig introduces the concept of modifiers, such as Super Bushy, Instant Overtime, and Unlimited Power. This update also added a by Club League calendar, which gave you star drops and pins. The last reward in the reward track would be based on your final Club League, with no Club to Gold League giving you an Epic Star Drop, Diamond and Mythic Club League giving you a Mythic Star Drops, and Legendary to Masters Club League getting a Legendary Star Drop. Also, the PowerPoint cap was completely removed. So how good was this update? Charlie was immediately one of the best brawlers in the game when she released, and continued her meta dominance for a long time, requiring several nerfs to finally put her into the ground. The balances changes were mostly focused on the nerfs, and it gave much-needed nerfs to Shelly and Chuck, but a pretty harsh nerf to Gus's best gadget, removing some of his counterplay against aggressive brawlers. And now let's talk about the big change, Club League to Mega Pig. Mega Pig is objectively worse for progression, giving much less coins and power points than Club League used to give. Club League was more based on skill and grindy, while Megapig was more casual and less grindy. So overall, it was better for casual players. But even still, the extreme drop in progression from Club League to Megapig cannot be ignored. The Buy Club League calendar was a nice extra touch, but was just a temporary and small fix to the drop in progression. Overall, this update didn't really add anything great, and removed formerly great features in the game, putting this update unfortunately into the F tier. And that's the tier list so far. Let me know your thoughts on the tier list in the comments below, and what you would change about it. And make sure to subscribe to see the next 5 updates to finish off the tier list. Thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.